Hola, it's Joe Partavila. Thanks for stopping by for a new episode of the Forbes Books podcast. And there have been some excellent movies about female entrepreneurs, mostly fiction like Bridesmaids or Sweet Home Alabama. But there's also that great Jennifer Lawrence movie where she plays real-life entrepreneur Joe Mangano. But I'm shocked that there hasn't been a movie made about my guest today. Her name is Stephanie Blackwell, and she's the founder and president of Aurora Products, a supplier of natural and organic nut and dried fruit snack packs. Her Hollywood-like entrepreneurial journey is full of all sorts of twists and turns, and I can't wait for you to hear her story. Stephanie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Nice to be here.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're here. No one forced you to be here. That's awesome. I love talking to entrepreneurs, and one of the great things about your story is you are a female entrepreneur. I don't need to tell you that. I think you probably knew that you were a female entrepreneur.
They told me that.
Yeah, someone told you along the way. But you were a female entrepreneur and started a business in like 1998. And from what I understand now, speaking to female entrepreneurs, it's hard being a female entrepreneur now in 2021. I can't imagine what it was like in 1998. Do you remember what that was like?
Well, the older I get, the worse my memory is, but yeah, I do. It was during the time of the bra burners. You know, if you spoke your mind or if you wanted to exert yourself, you were a bra burner. You didn't want people to know you had children. You didn't want to dress too girly girl because then you wouldn't be taken seriously. Yeah. Now, you brag how many kids you have and you share jobs. And even the men now are going out on baby leave.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, it was definitely different.
And when you talk to female entrepreneurs now, what were some of the things you learned then that are still applicable now? Is it the same, or do you think they have it? It's a little easier for them.
I think it's easier, but it's still there. Just a few years ago, I had somebody walk into the office, walked right by me, and asked to speak. Who's the head person I should be talking to?
Wow.
They wouldn't expect me to be even though I had the big office, they didn't expect me to be there. So it's.
And so what inspired you then to start Aurora? What because it's weird. You have a fascinating backstory because don't you have like a degree in like chemical engineering or something like that? Or
I went into chemistry.
Chemistry, yeah.
I was actually a double major. I was a biologist and I was a chemist.
Okay.
And I ended up working at Bell Labs because that was what I was good at. I was good at chemistry. I don't think very many high school kids know what they want to do. Yeah. What do they want to go into? It's a big decision-making time in your life. And so you many times follow the path of your least resistance. Right. And I was smart in science, and that's where I went. So I ended up working for Bell Labs and stayed there for 2 or 3 years and realized that wasn't for me.
And when did you realize that you had, because I think entrepreneurs, they're a different breed. Like, when did you realize that you had like the entrepreneur bones, that you like this is what you wanted to be? Like you wanted to be your own boss?
That's a good question. I know I wanted to be somebody with authority when I was 7 years old, and I came home from school and I told my mother I had had homework. It made me feel like I was responsible and I had a job to do, and but it wasn't until that night when she made me do the homework that I realized that I didn't want to do that anymore. But that was probably the first time that I ever realized that I wanted to have a job with authority. But I never considered myself an entrepreneur. Not until later in life. I married a man who kept saying, I'm an entrepreneur, and we tried a lot of different things, and I never really thought of me as being an entrepreneur. It's interesting because as time went on, all of a sudden you realize you are, you know.
So you're an accidental entrepreneur, because most people now set out to be entrepreneurs, but you...
No,
never
thought it. No, all I knew is I wanted to have a job of authority. I guess in chemistry, when you're working in a lab, I worked independently. You know,
yeah.
I wasn't a technician. I was a chemist where I had my own research projects and I could work independently.
Yeah.
So I would have been happy there if I liked chemistry, but it was something that didn't grab me.
Yeah.
But I never thought, I want to have my own business, I want to be my own boss, and I want to develop this, and no, never thought of it.
Wow. And it's funny, too, because I think it may be a generational thing, because I remember as a kid, the word entrepreneur, it was almost like a joke. Like, it was like, you're an entrepreneur, oh, that means you're unemployed. So it's funny how now the word entrepreneur has taken such stature to it. Like, people strive to be entrepreneurs. And so when you finally became one without knowing you and started Aurora, what was the impetus for that?
I worked for a very, very short period of time when I owned a business with my ex-husband, and it wasn't making enough money to support the two of us. I left, and I went out and I got a job. It was a very dysfunctional company. I hated it. I cried going to work. Oh. And I realized, number one, I didn't like this job. And I was getting older. I was 41.
Oh, boy.
And
Oh,
so I
geez.
thought,
They didn't put you out to pasture by then? No.
well, your career at that point in time is you had got to have to make a decision. And so I thought, I want my own business. I didn't like working who I was working with. Nobody liked it. So I was happy when I left. And so I decided I wanted to be in business for myself.
Wow. And it's funny, too, because when you have those kind of experiences, you're like, in the short term, you're probably thinking, I just need to get out of here. But then I think, I'm sure as you went into business for yourself, you're like, I don't want to do anything that I did there. I know the right way to do it. They were doing it wrong. This is the right way. And so why, when you decided to, why was Aurora the thing that you thought could be your business?
Well, this is a long story of how I even got started in Aurora, but I owned half of a business with my ex-husband. When I left that other business after a year working for this one particular company, I said I was back, and I come in and said, hello, honey, I'm home. And he started crying because he didn't want me back at working with him. And
geez.
I didn't want to work back with him. But we made the agreement that I work part-time and I go out and go into sales, which was good for me. And in the meantime, I would be looking for other businesses. So I went through all sorts of bizbuy.sell, adventure business groups, looking for different things, different options. And I couldn't find anything. But when I had gone out on sales, I went into New York trying to sell what the product that we sold. We sold sprouts and some miscellaneous food products that were sold in supermarket produce department. So I had gone in to sell my product line to a small store, and they said, gee, we're not interested in your product line, but could you package for us? We do about 90 to 100 items, anywhere from beans and grains to candies to dried fruits to nuts, trail mixes, granolas. Would you package them for us? Because we're not doing a very good job of packaging. It's in New York City, and they just slapped the label on, and they wanted to follow. They were underweight, overweight. They wanted somebody to do it professionally. I said, sure, we do it all the time, So I went home and I learned Excel. I didn't know Excel. I learned Excel, found suppliers, and finally, after a couple months, went to them with a program of 90 items priced out that we would pack for them under their brand. They said, good, when can you start? That was my first account.
Wow.
So I thought, this is fun. So I went to my ex-spouse, my partner, and I said, you want me out of this business of sprouts? I want me out of this business. So I will take this one customer, and I'll call it Aurora Products. So he did. He loved it. He bought me out, and that was my first customer.
Wow. And what did you know? Because Aurora, you deal with nuts and such. Did you have...
I knew nothing about nuts.
Thank you.
I didn't know the difference between a walnut and a pecan. They were the same to me. I knew nothing about these. I learned a lot. You learn.
Yeah.
You learn very quickly. I sold those items, and that wasn't all natural at the time, and it wasn't organic. That evolved, a lot of evolution over the years. I didn't have any money, very little money. He did buy me out, but he bought me out on paper, which was paying me slowly. So I borrowed $20,000 from my credit card to hire a salesperson to help me go out and sell.
Wow.
And it paid for itself, let me put it that way, from the very beginning. So, because I shared the building that I was in initially for the first year, so my expenses were low, and I just lived on cash flow, and I just grew very slowly.
Wow. I
didn't go out and borrow venture capital so I could start this bang. I just took one step at a time.
Wow.
Got another customer, got another customer, then moved, and just grew organically.
Wow. The patience you must have had, though, because I think a lot of people... Maybe now, after a couple of big purchases, they'd be like, all right, it's time to scale up. Let's get some VC in here. So where did that patience come from? Why did you feel like you could slow play it, as they say in poker?
Because I wasn't really after the money. I wanted make enough money to support myself, because I had 4 children.
Oh, good.
But I was remarried, so my second husband and I were able to work together to support the family. I just loved what I did.
Wow.
And I hate borrowing. I've always hated borrowing.
Just the $20,000 on the credit card. That was the only one.
Which was paid back right away.
Yeah.
It's paid back. I mean, it was the first thing I paid back.
Wow.
So I just did it very slowly, and it slowly grew. The first year's sales was $900,000. I thought at the time, you're talking 22 years ago, that's equivalent to what, 1.4 million today, maybe?
Oh, boy. So
every year, there wasn't one year I was in the red. I would go to auctions and buy used forklifts, and I would go to, even buy an beaten up old truck to make deliveries or deliver in the back of my car to the customers. You just make do. And it was fun. I was always busy. When people say, what's your projections for next year? I didn't think about it. When you love what you're doing, And I loved the people that I worked with. I worked in inner city Bridgeport. It was a great time.
Wow. And you mentioned the fact that you were not a nut expert. You didn't know much about nuts.
Nope.
But did you know that there would be this sort of demand for nuts? Because this is late 90s. This is before like the paleos and the keto diets that came up, that people were like really healthy living. Did you know that there was going to be this demand for your product that would, because I'm sure early on you probably saw it, but you didn't realize what kind of demand you'd be seeing 5-10 years down the road.
In the beginning, I wasn't selling the product per se. I was selling a planogram. Some people can remember this, some people don't, but when you go to a grocery store and you're going to buy almonds 23 years ago, you're going to buy almonds and you want to buy unsalted roasted almonds. You go to a supermarket and you see almonds. You don't know if they're salted or they're unsalted. If you want to buy prunes, you go into the section of the store and you look for a little canister of prunes or one of those boxes with the wax boxes that's got wax inside. Yeah. Same thing with apricots. Or if you want to buy pine nuts, you look for a little tiny bag. Everything came different areas and different packaging.
Right.
This was a planogram where they were all packaged in the same clear container with a label on it. And I sold salted almonds, and they were in a green label. I sold unsalted almonds, and they were in a yellow label. Red label signified a dried fruit. So that everything was color-coded, and everything was planogrammed, and everything is in a 14-section area where you had everything, a plethora of food. Whereas having to go to another department to buy this, or another in different containers and stuff like that. So it was all uniform packaging, and all in one place.
And was anyone else doing that?
One other company was doing that, and they had sold out to a large corporation, so I was the only small one.
Wow.
I think we were more of the role model where a lot of people came in to emulate. They didn't have color coding. We did the color coding. Next thing I know, people are doing color coding. And now there's a lot of competition of people doing this, but at the time there was very little competition.
And what's it like now in terms of competition to get on store shelves? Because that's sort of like the dirty little secret of retail is like, these behemoth companies, they control what's basically what's going to go on shelves. How is that now for you, even though you do have this 30-year track record of success? Is that still a thing where you're competing for space on shelves at grocery stores?
One of my biggest competitions is actually private label. I have one store that I have 82 items in, and they want to convert to their own brand. Oh. So I lose my brand identity because people may not know it's mine. That's a big problem for me. But since I started the business, I went from planogram program to all natural and organic. And that makes me in a special niche because there's not as much competition in organic and all natural. It's a little more expensive, but it's good value. Yeah. And it's healthier for you because it doesn't have any preservatives or anything. I don't sell candies unless they're all natural candies. My chocolates have pure chocolate. My vanilla flavored or yogurt flavored items have pure vanilla, not vanillin. My granolas have pure vanilla, not vanillin. So everything is made certified organic, or it's all natural. Wow. And I don't work with anything else.
Well, it sounds like you're an expert now on all these nuts.
Oh, yeah.
And last question, how pissed off is your ex-husband that you're so damn successful?
Oh, there's a story to that, really. At the very end, before we signed the papers, I said to him, how would you feel if I still owned 10% of this original company, which is called Amalgamated Produce? It was a sprout company that grew hydroponics alfalfa sprouts. How would you feel if I owned 10% of that company, retained that 10% minority share, and I will give you 10% ownership of my new company? And he said, no, I don't want to do that. I want you, I don't.
He wants a clean break.
He wanted a clean break. And I can understand that because he was hurt, in the divorce, and he didn't really want the divorce. So it was difficult. He just wanted me out. And I understand that. But now he says it was the biggest mistake he's ever made because his company since then has gone under. Oh. And he kept it running for quite a few years, but then eventually it did fold. And he sees Aurora, and I think he's a little upset that he didn't keep that 10%. He said, I dream of it sometimes. Cashing in my 10%.
Oh, what a great story. Well, it's been so much fun chatting with you, talking about your business, what you're doing. May I ask, I know you take things very slowly, but what's next for you? I mean, is this just slow and steady wins the race kind of thing for you, or what do you want to do next?
I don't know. It's interesting. I just love what I do. I don't know. I would not make a good Harvard case because you write projections. And every year at the end you review this and you review that, where you want to be. And I just don't do that.
Wow.
I don't do that. I'm unconventional. I have no loans. I don't like borrowing money, and if I do, periodically I will. I do have a line of credit. My credit is not very good because I don't use it. So I don't do those projections to think where I want to be for 5 years from now. I don't know. I just love what I do.
Awesome.
It's just, life is an adventure. This business has been an adventure. I just love the people that I work with. I love seeing my product out there. I don't think that far ahead. I've still got a lot of years to live, and I expect to be here until I'm 99. And even then, I'm going to extend my lifetime warranty.
Awesome. And who'd have thought that people thought you were finished at 41? Look at this.
I know. I was just starting.
Well, thank you very much for coming by.
Thank you.
She is Stephanie Blackwell, the founder and president of Aurora Products, and that's it for this episode of the Forbes Books Podcast. If you enjoy the show, make sure you take a second to subscribe so you automatically get my new shows when they drop. Also, if you have a minute, I'd love if you left us a review so more amazing entrepreneurs like yourself can discover the show. And please, don't forget the golden rule and treat others as you want to be treated. Thanks for listening. Until next time, adios.
This has been a production of Forbes Books Radio. Find out more at ForbesBooksRadio.com.